the next thing, you also wrote another article, up to 10 teams could be looking for a quarterback. Take us through, and I'm with you, take us through that, though.
Yeah, and I think it's a really interesting kind of time in the NFL. At SBNation.com, one of my colleagues, James Dater, wrote about kind of what teams will have quarterbacks in a couple years. But I think there are 10 teams, the New York Jets, the New Orleans Saints, the Cleveland Browns, the Las Vegas Raiders, even though they just extended Geno Smith this offseason after acquiring him. But even down to like Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars, Matthew Stafford's back. Most of us are surprised by how good the Rams are because Matthew Stafford could barely walk, according to some reports this offseason. They have 2 first-round picks and a ton of draft cap or a ton of cap space as well. There are I ended up with 10 teams that could be in the market for a quarterback. And I think it's important for Browns fans to kind of realize that's pretty regular. It is regular that 6, 8, 10 teams are looking for quarterbacks each year. And it's why the conversation about the NFL draft, partially because the Browns have, very little cap space, has to start with the quarterback position, depending on where the Browns finish. It's just understanding kind of what the market looks like and what the quarterback needs are around the league.
So the other challenge is, though, they need an offensive line and they need wide receivers. I mean, can they get everything they need in one draft offensively?
I think they can. I think it just depends on understanding what this draft class looks like. I think if there's a top 5 pick and it's used on a quarterback, that's probably pretty realistic and appropriate. And then you're looking at really that second first-round pick and that second-round pick. Can they find a left tackle, and then can they find a wide receiver? What we've seen in the last few years is that there's more and more wide receivers and fewer offensive tackles. Dane Brugler has 3, I believe, in his top 30, which is just not a lot. And so can the Browns find a left tackle wherever the Jacksonville Jaguars are selecting? We're rooting really hard for them to fall. And then can they find that kind of wide receiver that is either big, strong, and tall, or can separate, right? Casey Concepcion is a great example of not the largest wide receiver, but he's going to create separation all over the place. I think they can answer those 3. And then whether it's Jack Conklin or DeJuan Jones at right tackle, and then on the interior, it's just easier to find guards and centers in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round. The Browns also have, Luke Whippler, Zach Zinter. They could bring back Tevin Jenkins. There's a lot more optionality in the middle of the line. Wyatt Teller could be extended. He talked about wanting to come back. I think they can answer all of that. If you have Jerry Jeudy as your number 2 wide receiver, if you can bring back David Njoku and you have Harold Fannin, you get a top flight wide receiver on the outside in the NFL draft and a left tackle and a quarterback. Those aren't unrealistic. Use those first 3 picks on those premium positions. Use some of your later draft on the interior positions if you don't think the guys on your roster right now are ready to kind of step up. And I think the offense all of a sudden looks good because a quarterback, like we've seen with Drake May and a variety of others, really does raise all ships.
You mentioned how, when we were going back and forth, just the role luck plays in the NFL draft.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. So many times, and I know this for the Cleveland Cavaliers at times, but also with the Browns, you look at this year's draft. They had the number 2 overall pick. If they had the number 2 overall pick the year before, they have Jaden Daniels or they have Drake May. I'm not as high on him, but they have Bo Nix, right? Or they have Michael Penix. But they get the number 2 pick in the draft where there's only one quarterback, Cam Ward. All of a sudden, they're trading down. They're getting, creative. And then you have this upcoming draft where pretty much everybody that most thought would be at the top of the draft, Cade Klubnik from Clemson is the guy I thought they would really be high on. I'm not sure he's getting drafted in the first 2 rounds this year, but you have these other quarterbacks, Dante Moore, Mendoza out of Indiana. But are they that top caliber kind of quarterback? And do the Browns get in position for that player, right? Some of that is just luck of each draft class. And when the Browns are bad, especially at the quarterback position, when are they bad? And when is there quality quarterbacks that they can draft?
Yeah, and you mentioned the NBA. The ping pong ball bounced right. They were the worst, and they got LeBron James. The Bengals got Joe Burrow. Wasn't like they scouted really well. That was a no-brainer consensus. They could have had me or you make that pick. The year the Browns took Baker Mayfield, there was Lamar Jackson. The only people that thought he was a first-round quarterback were the Ravens. There was also Josh Allen.
Yeah, and I think even then you look like Josh Allen. I'll just be honest, this draft season, please do not compare any quarterback to Josh Allen. Josh Allen is a unicorn in so many ways, including the fact that no one with his accuracy problems has ever developed the way he's developed, right? And so, yeah, he's big, he's strong, he's fast, he has a big arm. None of those things actually matter. Jamarcus Russell, for example. There's just so many little details that play a role. Even that draft, I'm just going to be honest, and I think I've shared it here before. The Browns were planning on drafting Lamar Jackson, number 33 overall, and converting him into some kind of weapon for Hugh Jackson. Think of how the world is different if the Baltimore Ravens do not trade to number 32 to get Lamar Jackson, right? Talk about luck for Lamar Jackson.